vulnerability is one of the most misunderstood qualities, yet animals embody it in ways that feel both pure and powerful. A dog that wags its tail the moment you walk through the door is not calculating whether it will be rejected or loved in return. It simply offers affection without hesitation, fully present in the risk and the reward. This act may seem simple, but in truth it reflects an incredible courage to show up as one is without the safety of guarantees. That is the essence of vulnerability, stepping forward despite uncertainty. Humans often see vulnerability as weakness, something to hide or suppress, because it exposes us to the possibility of rejection, loss, or disappointment. But when we look at animals, we see that vulnerability is also the birthplace of love and connection. The cat that curls into your lap does not ask if you will always stay or if you might walk away tomorrow. It simply chooses closeness now, unafraid of the uncertainty ahead. This willingness to lean into the unknown is what makes connection possible in the first place. There is bravery in vulnerability because it removes the armor we so often carry into relationships. We wear masks to seem strong, perfect, or self-sufficient, but animals remind us that connection cannot flourish where defenses are too thick. A horse that lowers its head to be touched risks being hurt, but also invites trust. Likewise, when we lower our defenses and allow others to see us, we risk pain, but also open the door to love. Vulnerability is never easy, but it is always brave. The beauty of vulnerability is that it reveals authenticity. Animals don't pretend to be something they are not, and they don't hide their needs out of shame. A hungry kitten meows loudly, unashamed of appearing needy, because it knows its survival depends on expressing its truth. For humans, this is a profound lesson. We often silence ourselves out of fear of judgment, yet our needs are what make us real and relatable. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the courage to be authentic in a world that values perfection. When we witness animals expressing vulnerability, we are reminded of our own capacity to love without guarantees. A dog that greets its owner with joy even after being scolded the day before demonstrates forgiveness and openness. It does not hold on to yesterday's wounds or carry resentment into today. Vulnerability allows them to live free of the burdens we humans so often carry. To mirror this kind of openness requires us to release the past and risk being present, even when we fear being hurt again. Vulnerability also teaches us to let go of control, something humans often resist. We want to predict, prepare, and protect ourselves from every possible outcome. Yet animals show that life is not about eliminating uncertainty, but about embracing it with courage. A bird building its nest risks storms that may destroy it, yet it builds anyway. Vulnerability means creating, loving, and showing up despite the unknowns, because to withhold ourselves out of fear is to miss the chance for joy. In allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we discover the strength of true connection. Animals live in a way that strips away pretenses, and that is why their love feels so profound. They teach us that showing up fully, with our hearts exposed, is the bravest act of all. Vulnerability may carry the possibility of pain, but it also carries the promise of love, belonging, and joy. And it is through this risk, mirrored so beautifully in the animal world, that we uncover the deepest truths about courage and connection. Love, as animals show us, is far more than a feeling. It is an action, a choice, and often a sacrifice. When we watch elephants gather around a fallen member of their herd, touching the body gently with their trunks, we witness love in its rawest form. They don't turn away from pain. They lean into it with presence and empathy. This is love as action, not avoiding discomfort, but choosing to show up for one another. It challenges us to expand our own definition of what it means to love. In the animal world, love is rarely transactional. A penguin carrying an egg through bitter cold does not weigh whether the effort is worth the reward. It simply gives itself to the process. That act of care is not about immediate benefit, but about devotion to life. Humans often place conditions on love, expecting something in return or measuring whether someone is worthy of our care, animals remind us that real love is unconditional, a commitment made not because it is easy, but because it matters deeply. Love, as demonstrated by bees, extends beyond the individual to the community. Each bee contributes tirelessly, not for personal survival alone, but for the flourishing of the hive. This love is collective, a devotion to the well-being of the group. It reminds us that our lives are interconnected and that love must extend outward, shaping not only our close relationships, but also how we treat the world around us. Courageous love is expansive. It builds, nourishes, and sustains beyond the self. There is also sacrifice in love, a truth we see again and again in animals. A mother bird risks her life to guard her nest, willing to place herself in danger for the sake of her young. Love asks for this kind of bravery, not always in dramatic moments, but often in daily acts of putting others before ourselves. Humans resist this because sacrifice feels like weakness, yet animals reveal it as strength. Love that costs us something is often the love that changes us most. Animals also teach us that love is consistent, not occasional. A dog waits by the door every day, ready to greet with joy regardless of circumstances. That steady devotion reflects the courage of love that does not waver with mood or convenience. Humans often treat love as conditional on circumstances or performance, yet the truest form of love shows up again and again. It is the daily practice of commitment, the quiet decision to stay present even when it would be easier to withdraw. Love requires vulnerability, and animals embrace that risk without hesitation. To love is to open ourselves to hurt, because where there is love, there is also the chance of loss. Elephants grieve deeply when one of their own dies, yet they do not close their hearts to future connection. This resilience in love is what gives it its power. Humans often guard their hearts after pain, but animals remind us that the willingness to love again, despite loss, is an act of immense courage. Perhaps the most powerful lesson animals teach us about love is that it is life-giving. Their presence, their touch, their simple acts of connection have the power to heal loneliness, ease suffering, and create belonging. Love, when lived as action, is what sustains individuals and communities alike. It is not weakness, but the deepest form of strength. Animals show us that love is not merely felt, but practiced again and again. And in that practice, we find the essence of courage, connection, and what it means to truly live. Strength in animals is often misunderstood because it is not only measured by physical power, but by resilience and adaptability. A turtle slowly making its way across a road shows a kind of strength rooted in persistence, not speed. It does not compete with others to prove superiority. It simply continues forward with steady determination. This teaches us that strength is not always loud or visible, but is often found in quiet endurance. True strength lies in showing up consistently despite obstacles. We often think of strength as dominance, but animals reveal that it is also about protection and care. A lioness is strong not only because she can hunt, but because she nurtures her cubs with ferocity and devotion. Her power is both tender and fierce, showing us that real strength is not the absence of softness, but the integration of it. Humans often separate strength from compassion, but animals demonstrate that the two are inseparable. And in fact, compassion amplifies true strength. Strength in animals is also the courage to face uncertainty. A salmon swims upstream against violent currents, risking exhaustion, predators, and failure, yet it continues because its mission matters more than its fear. That determination reflects a kind of courage that transcends comfort. Strength is not the absence of difficulty, but the willingness to push through despite it. Humans can learn from this perseverance, recognizing that our struggles are not signs of weakness, but opportunities to embody strength through persistence. Another lesson animals teach us is that strength is communal, not just individual. Wolves thrive not because of one dominant member, but because of the pack working together. Their unity ensures survival, with each member contributing to the well-being of the group. This challenges the human belief that strength is solely about independence. True resilience often comes from connection, collaboration, and leaning on one another in times of need, proving that strength grows when it is shared. Animals also embody emotional strength in profound ways. Elephants, for instance, grieve their dead yet continue to move forward as a herd, carrying both sorrow and resilience. They do not suppress their emotions, but allow themselves to feel deeply while also finding the strength to keep going. Humans often equate emotional expression with weakness, yet animals show us that strength includes the capacity to hold pain without losing hope. This balance between vulnerability and resilience defines the deepest form of inner strength. Strength can also be seen in adaptability, a trait that animals embody naturally. A chameleon shifts its colors to survive, not by overpowering others, but by blending with its environment. This flexibility is not weakness, but a profound form of resilience, showing that the ability to adapt is as vital as the ability to endure. Humans often resist change, fearing it will diminish their identity, yet animals reveal that adaptability is one of the purest forms of strength. Ultimately, animals remind us that strength is not about control, but about courage, to stand in uncertainty, to persist through struggle, to care deeply even when it risks loss. All of these are forms of strength that go beyond physical capacity. True strength lies in the heart, in resilience, in persistence, and in love. Animals mirror this truth in their everyday lives, showing us that to be strong is not to dominate, but to endure, to care, and to rise again no matter how many times we fall. Connection is the invisible thread that binds life together, and animals demonstrate this truth with remarkable clarity. In a flock of birds flying in formation, each one adjusts its wings in harmony with the others, creating a rhythm that allows them to travel vast distances. This is not about one bird leading all the time, but about shared responsibility, where strength is exchanged depending on who has the energy. It shows us that true connection is built on reciprocity and trust. Monkeys grooming one another in the wild provide another profound lesson in connection. This simple act is not just about hygiene, but about building bonds, reducing stress, and strengthening the group. The time they spend with each other creates security and belonging, something every human craves as well. Their behavior reminds us that connection is found in small, intentional actions. It is not the grand gestures, but the quiet moments of care that knit relationships tightly together. Connection in animals often transcends survival and reflects a deeper need for belonging. Dolphins swim in pods not only for protection, but also for play and communication. Their joy in being together reveals that connection is not merely functional, but life-enriching. In our busy lives, humans often reduce connection to necessity or convenience, forgetting its deeper role in giving life meaning. Animals remind us that joy, laughter, and companionship are essential parts of connection. At times, animals reveal that connection is about presence rather than words. A dog sitting silently beside its grieving owner offers comfort without speaking a sound. That quiet companionship is powerful because it acknowledges pain without trying to fix it. Humans often feel pressured to solve problems in relationships, but animals show that simply being present is sometimes the most profound form of connection. Love and care are often expressed in silence, through presence rather than explanation. The courage to connect often requires vulnerability, and animals model this beautifully. When a horse lowers its head and allows a human to touch it, it takes a risk, choosing to trust. That act of openness is not weakness, but strength, as it makes space for relationship. Humans frequently avoid vulnerability out of fear of rejection, yet animals show us that connection cannot exist without trust. Their willingness to expose themselves to risk reflects the very heart of authentic relationships. Animals also demonstrate that connection is strengthened by consistency. Wolves howl not just to communicate locations, but to reinforce bonds, reminding one another that they are not alone. These calls echo across distances, carrying reassurance and solidarity. Humans, too, need reminders of belonging, small gestures that tell others we are thinking of them. Just as wolves keep their bonds alive through repeated signals, our connections thrive when nurtured through ongoing care and attention. Perhaps most profoundly, animals teach us that connection is not optional, but essential for survival and thriving. A single bee cannot produce honey or sustain the hive. It is the collective effort that allows life to flourish. This reflects a truth often forgotten in modern human life. We are wired for connection, and our well-being depends on it. When we neglect connection, we weaken ourselves and our communities, but when we embrace it, we build resilience, love, and shared strength that sustains us all. Love, when observed in the animal kingdom, appears in its most raw and unfiltered form. A mother bird tirelessly brings food to her chicks, never counting the number of times she flies back and forth, driven only by devotion. There is no expectation of repayment, no demand for recognition, only the pure instinct to nurture. Humans, in contrast, often complicate love with conditions and expectations. Animals remind us that love is most powerful when it is selfless and freely given. In the bond between elephants, we see love expressed as deep loyalty and empathy. When a calf is in distress, the herd gathers around, touching it with their trunks, offering comfort and assurance. Their love is communal, shared among the group, not limited to immediate family. It demonstrates that love expands when it is shared widely, not kept within narrow boundaries. This challenges us as humans to extend love beyond convenience, reaching others in need with empathy and care. Dogs perhaps give us the most visible example of unconditional love. They greet their humans with joy, whether it has been minutes or hours apart. Their affection does not waver because of mistakes or flaws, but remains constant. This teaches us that real love is not dependent on perfection, but thrives in acceptance. Animals show us that love sees beyond shortcomings and focuses instead on presence and connection. Love among animals is also seen in sacrifice. Where survival instincts are overridden by care, a penguin endures freezing winds to protect its egg, standing still for weeks without food or comfort. That endurance is born out of love, a willingness to suffer for the sake of another. Such devotion reflects that love is not always easy or convenient, but sometimes requires persistence and selflessness. It challenges us to consider whether our love endures in the face of discomfort. In smaller gestures, too, animals display the quiet power of love. Birds singing to their mates, cats rubbing against one another, or dolphins swimming side by side are acts that strengthen bonds. These rituals might seem ordinary, yet they hold extraordinary meaning in creating trust and intimacy. Humans often underestimate small acts of affection, waiting for grand declarations instead. Animals remind us that consistent little gestures often hold the deepest expressions of love. Love is also expressed by animals through protection and care in times of vulnerability. A hen spreads her wings to shield her chicks from rain, standing exposed herself while they remain dry. That act mirrors a willingness to put oneself at risk for the well-being of another. It demonstrates that true love is not passive but active, showing itself in moments where sacrifice is needed. Animals embody this naturally, without hesitation, revealing the essence of love as service. Perhaps the most profound lesson animals teach is that love is healing. The purring of a cat calms anxiety, the companionship of a horse restores confidence, and the loyalty of a dog helps mend broken hearts. These expressions of love cross species, bridging gaps between humans and animals in ways that words cannot. They reveal that love has a transformative power capable of easing pain, building resilience, and reminding us we are never truly alone. Animals, in their simplicity, embody a love that calls us to embrace life with more compassion, openness, and courage. Strength, when viewed through the lens of the animal kingdom, is not only about physical power, but about endurance, resilience, and adaptability. A lion's roar may symbolize dominance, but the real strength of the pride lies in its cooperation and the protection it provides one another. Animals remind us that strength is not always loud or aggressive. It often reveals itself quietly in the ability to endure challenges. True strength is measured not by how forcefully one stands, but by how consistently one rises. In the life of a sea turtle, we witness an extraordinary example of strength. From the moment it hatches, the tiny creature must crawl across dangerous sands to reach the ocean, facing predators at every step. Most never make it, but those who survive continue to navigate vast seas with determination. Their story is one of resilience, of moving forward despite uncertainty and threat. This kind of strength is not glamorous, but is built on persistence and willpower. Strength is also expressed in the way animals adapt to their environments. The polar bear endures frigid temperatures and hunts in harsh conditions, relying on patience and survival instincts. Its ability to live in extremes teaches us that strength comes not from controlling circumstances, but from adapting to them. Humans often struggle against what they cannot change, but animals show us that strength lies in flexibility. The power to bend without breaking is a quiet yet profound form of courage. Elephants embody strength through memory and loyalty. When a member of their herd dies, they pause, mourn, and sometimes even revisit the bones years later. Their emotional strength allows them to face loss together rather than deny it. This teaches that strength is not the absence of grief, but the courage to feel deeply while still moving forward. Animals remind us that honoring pain while continuing to live is one of the purest of forms of resilience. Strength also exists in the cooperative nature of animals. Ants, though tiny, build vast colonies and carry loads many times their own weight, succeeding only because of teamwork. Alone they would fail, but together they thrive. This shows that strength is amplified when shared rather than hoarded. Humans often mistake independence for strength, but animals demonstrate that unity creates endurance. True strength grows when it is multiplied by connection and collaboration. We can also see strength in the silent patience of predators like leopards, waiting hours for the right moment to strike. They remind us that strength is not always about action, but often about discipline. The ability to wait, conserve energy, and act wisely reveals power and self-control. Humans often equate strength with constant motion, but patience requires equal, if not greater, courage. Animals teach us that strength is as much about timing as it is about force. Finally, strength can be found in the smallest creatures who endure the toughest trials. A hummingbird, with wings beating hundreds of times per second, migrates thousands of miles despite its delicate frame. Its survival depends on unwavering focus and extraordinary determination. This resilience reminds us that strength is not reserved for the mighty, but is present in those who persist against all odds. Animals show us that real strength is not about size or dominance, but about the will to keep going, the courage to adapt, and the endurance to rise again, no matter how many times the world pushes us down.